a newly hired professor that comes in with a stellar research track record, so strong that there was no question with Wayne's criteria, that he was well above Wayne's criteria, and so he's going to bring fame and glory to the Institute with all the good and interesting things that he's doing. But one of the things that will be fairly important is to establish some collaboration with people within the Institute. And so part of what we're doing today is that I realized 10 days ago or a week ago that we had an empty spot in the brown bag, and so I asked Johnmarshall, and Johnmarshall is one word, so if you want to give, but he does go by JM as well, but not John. So Johnmarshall or JM. In any case, he's going to give us an overview of his research, and hopefully there'll be lots of little hooks that hang down where you can connect with some of the things that you're doing. And hopefully in the next week or so, many of us will have a chance to go and say, hey, I do this that sounds related to that, and maybe that's something that we could collaborate on. So we're looking to build links that Johnmarshall's linked with our program, but also our program linking our research and individual interest linking with his. So I'll go ahead and turn that over to you then.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming for lunch. I hope to make it worthwhile. That's my goal. Make it a good 40 minutes or so. That was worth it. That wasn't a waste of time. Let's see, just to establish some links. Right now, 3 major areas of interest. The first one I'll talk about today, working with teachers on their motivating styles. So this is a school-based teacher focus. You go to the schools and work a lot with the teachers. But we work with others as well. We work with coaches. We work with dentists. We got a big project with dentists and parents. So I'll talk about teachers, but we work with others as well. And then another area is student agency, agentic engagement, where students contribute constructively to their own learning, show initiative and speak up, and pull autonomy support out of a teacher. So we work with students. And the last one is the neuroscience of intrinsic motivation. But it's all SDT-based. But today I'll talk about teachers, working with our teachers. And the pictures are intentional. The picture on the left, we try to help teachers support intrinsic motivation, students' intrinsic motivation. So the students are expressing psychological need satisfaction, which is the basis of intrinsic motivation. And on the right is trying to support internalization, to help students work through a value or an importance of a learning activity, even if it's difficult or confusing or things like this. Okay, I thought 5 points that I'd talk. See if we can connect. First, just to give you an idea of what we mean by motivating style. And then the goals of when we go to the schools, what is it we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. Typical research design, to show you our research design. We work 2 months with teachers. So what are we doing? What are we hoping their professional development experience is? So after they work with us for semester, what happens, and then findings in terms of so what benefits. We spend all this time in the schools, and what do we have to show for it in terms of student benefits, teacher benefits, classroom climate benefits, and kind of process as well. Okay, just acknowledge, because hopefully you'll see these people. Sung Hyun, he's been with me just about every one of these interventions. He's promised to come down a lot. Hopefully meet everybody. Hayron will be here, I think March 1st. She'll be a postdoc. And Linnea works with us, but we work in Peru with her. Okay, here's how we think. If you're familiar with SDT, then you're familiar with how we think. I'm very much in the DC Ryan, or Ryan DC kind of train of thought with SDT. But we make this assumption that students are plenty motivated. They walk into the classroom with their curiosity and their psychological needs and intrinsic motivation. Just like you've come to the talk today, hopefully you brought your motivation with you. And what happens to your motivation very much depends on the social context. So this is how we think about it. If the teacher's autonomy supportive, I'll define that in a minute, then the students are likely to experience need satisfaction during class, during learning activities. But the teacher can also provide instruction in a way that neglects or ignores or is indifferent to the need satisfaction, like a lecture that's based on what the teacher wants to accomplish rather than the student's interest and preferences. Then the students kind of leave dissatisfied in terms of their psychological needs. Or the teacher can be outright authoritative or controlling and actually suppress students' needs and interests and say, you're working on the wrong thing, you're pursuing the wrong goal, you're pursuing the wrong interest, stop that and do what I tell you to do, and the student's needs can be frustrated. So that's basically how we think. If we can get this right, if the teachers can provide a context that appreciates and supports and vitalizes students' psychological needs, then these wonderful things happen, which is basically SDT. If you have this need satisfaction and you can diminish frustration and dissatisfaction, you get some wonderful outcomes. So I'll show you that in our research where we get that. Okay, autonomy support. So how familiar are people with autonomy support? Some, but not, okay, just okay, good. Okay, what we think about it is, we think about it as effective teaching, a teaching skill. It's what teachers say and do. Everything that comes out of their mouth, everything from words to voice tone to activities and gestures and the requirements and everything they say and do to try to promote students' engagement in learning activities, to engage themselves in the benefit from the learning activities the teacher provides. And there's lots of ways you can do this. One, green for like a traffic light, good. You can take these psychological needs and interests and preferences seriously. You can identify them, ask them what would you like to do, what are you interested in, what do you prefer, and then appreciate the motivational potency of these psychological needs, and then provide instruction in a way that supports and vitalizes and nurtures these needs so that activity comes out of needs rather than out of directives and things like that. Something I want to do rather than something I have to do. Or the teacher can simply be indifferent to students' motivation, or she can be outright authoritative and try to actively suppress it. Like stop now, and then transition to something else. So red as that's not good. But really what the essence of it is, the motivating style, is this tone. It's just something you can, if you're looking for it, you can pick this up in about 5 seconds. Just watch. I like to, like at a restaurant, listen to the mother talking to her child. You can pick up the tone if you're looking for it in seconds. And so what we emphasize is either the tone is communicating as you talk or express your problems or tell me what your dreams in life are. I'm your ally. I'm on your side. I'm here to understand. Do you support your strivings? How can I help? How can I be a resource to get you to where you're trying to get to? So we think that's very important. I just want to understand and support you. That's the essence of autonomy support. The essence of controlling is pressure. It's prescriptive. This is what you need to do, and then you apply the pressure until people do what they're told or made to do. So I'm your boss. I'm here to monitor, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and not doing what you're not supposed to be doing. I'm here to change you, socialize you, whip you into shape, make you a Marine or whatever context is. Okay. So if you can notice this tone, then if you can get the tone right, then these behaviors, these are our recommended autonomy-supportive instructional behaviors that we're going to help teachers develop in their teaching repertoire. But these behaviors that I'll define for you in a minute, they kind of flow naturally out of this tone. They're consistent. They just seem to flow out of this tone. It's natural to take people's perspective and to acknowledge their feelings, support their initiative. If you're really trying to understand them, tell me what you're interested in. Tell me where you're trying to get to. Then I'll support your initiatives and understand your perspective. And it's also kind of natural or consistent if you're trying to pressure people to tell people what to do, use pressuring language, have to, hurry, go, got to, those kind of things. So if you get the tone right, it's easy to learn these it's relatively easy to learn these instructional behaviors. So we work hard on getting this tone right. So this is our operational definitions. This is how we measure it, or at least we often always have raters go into the classroom and score teachers' actual instructional behaviors. So this is how we score actual instructional behaviors. These are our recommended autonomy-supportive, the 6 bold-faced words. So the raters will score perspective taking and patience, language, things like that. Okay. So there's a lot of detail here, but you get the idea. And I'll keep going with these behaviors so you get an idea. Okay, so that's what autonomy support is. The teacher's motivating style that appreciates, supports students' psychological needs. The goals are always, this is what we're trying to do. We go to the school as just as primary goal, and then we trust SDT to do the rest, the theory to do the rest. We just try to help teachers upgrade the quality of their motivating style towards students. And what we mean by that is help teachers become more autonomy supportive and less controlled. And we found that it's 2 skills, not just one. We think of, in SDT, there's a dual process model. And we're advocates of the dual process model. That if you want to promote what we call bright side outcomes, like pro-social behavior and engagement, then teachers need to become more autonomy supportive. And if you want to diminish dark side outcomes, defiance and bullying and skipping class and disrespectful language, antisocial behavior, then teachers need to be less controlling. So we try to work on both of these skills together. So that's what we're trying to do. We go to the school, we're just trying to upgrade the quality of the motivating style. Now if we get that right, then the secondary goal is if teachers become more autonomy supportive, then student need satisfaction becomes more likely. And if teachers can become less controlling, students' need frustration becomes less likely. So this is how the students are reacting to changes in the teacher's motivating style. Then if we can get the needs to longitudinally change, then we're interested. Most of our studies just keep changing. These are common to all of our studies, all of our intervention studies. And then we keep changing the outcomes to see if we started kind of modest. We were trying to promote engagement. And okay, we were able to promote engagement. Then we said, we often do this in PE class because Sung Young Chan is my collaborator that I showed you on the early slide. He's in the Department of Physical Education. And he's got this incredible network of teachers in Korea. So we often, half the time we're in a PE class. One of the really tough problems in physical education class is motivation. Students don't want to do it. They say, I need this in Korea. I need to be studying real subjects. My parents don't encourage me. They sit on the sidelines. They're passive. They think it's, a lot of students just, what's this class for? This is interrupting my curriculum. So motivation is real, so we were able to get motivation out of the classroom. And then we kept working on increasingly difficult problems, what the teachers would say. So next we were working on antisocial behavior. In Korean education, there are really 2 strong presses: promote achievement, diminish bullying, or antisocial behavior. So we went with that, tried to, that'd be tough. I wonder if we could diminish antisocial behavior. We did that, and we've just finished a big project on bullying. And we had really excellent results in getting bullying out of the classroom. So those kind of outcomes. And we also have a lot of teacher outcomes. I know people are working on teacher well-being here, and we do too. Okay, so those are what autonomy support is. Those are our goals, what we're trying to accomplish. And this is the design that we use, and we walk you through this a little bit. So we always start with a random assignment. We work hard. Up front, work with the schools, work with the teachers, until we can establish, we're allowed to use random assignment in the schools. Now if we can do that, then it gives us the green light to do our projects. But we take a cluster of teachers and the students of those teachers and randomly assign half to experimental, half to a control group. And then in the control group, basically, we have them fill out the dependent measures 3 or 4 times over a semester or a year. We just track whatever pro-social behavior or engagement or needs frustration in practice as usual, in a typical classroom. And then in the experimental group, before the semester or the academic year begins, we have intervention, this 3-part intervention. You can, if you're really interested, you can look through on the slides what we do in the intervention. But we explain what autonomy support is and what control is and the benefits and the costs, things like this. And we've now used, or 2, we do that before as well. where it's the workshop where they actually work on the skills and try to personalize it and develop enough efficacy that they're willing to take it to their own classroom and try these behaviors out. So this all happens before the year begins. They meet their students. Then the first week we give either the students fill out a questionnaire or the teachers, if the teachers are filling out questionnaires like well-being or ratings of student aggression or something like this. And then halfway through the semester, we'll send our raters in to score the manipulation check, basically on motivating style. Then we'll have a time to measure just after it's about an 18, 19-week semester in Korea. So this is after the midterm. And then we'll have a group discussion after the midterm. And then at the end of the semester, end of the year, we'll assess the same just use the same questionnaire over and over to track the rise and fall of whatever we're interested in over the semester. Sometimes we'll do this much more commonly now where we'll do an academic year, and that's March through December in Korea. So the first half we'll track the changes that have happened, and then we'll see about whether the changes in need satisfaction, for example, carry over to the next semester. So we'll follow an academic year. How we evaluate how it's going. We use ASIP is Autonomy-Supportive intervention. That's our manipulated motivating style. So that's our experimental variable. And then we just track whatever indicator we're interested in, like engagement, longitudinally. And we make these, we always have these analyses in our data. So we use HLM to test for changes in autonomy support, changes in need satisfaction, and we test the overall model as well. It's always multi-level because students are nested in the classroom. So this is what the results look like if you look at just one dependent measure at a time. And so the control group's in red. Need satisfaction doesn't change much. Need frustration doesn't change much. Actually, this is usually a significant increase. It doesn't look like a big change, but it is significant over time. Students become more frustrated as the class goes by. It's pretty common in almost every study. But the blue line is what we're interested in compared to the red line. We see greater need satisfaction, lesser need frustration. So we always check for that. And then we always test the overall model. So we have our independent variable and whatever the dependent measures are tracked over time. And what our model is here's what we're responsible for. We try to upgrade the motivating style so that need satisfaction will be increased and need frustration or dissatisfaction will be diminished. And then once we get these processes to occur, then SDT takes over and they say pro-social behavior comes out of need, autonomy, competence, relatedness, need satisfaction, and antisocial behavior and another measure come out of having your autonomy frustrated, your competence frustrated, your relatedness frustrated. And so that's pretty much what we do over and over. Okay, what teachers learn. So we go to the schools, we do these interventions, and basically we work a lot with them, but essentially we're trying to do two things. Help teachers solve these two problems. Why the teachers want us to come to the schools. They come on, and we need you. Because we need to learn how to make learning activities interesting. So when we present learning materials, we would like students to want it. And how we do that is promote need satisfaction. So let's promote competence during the activity, autonomy during the activity, relatedness during the activity. That's what makes the learning activity interesting, irrespective of whatever the learning activity is. Whether it's stretching in PE or doing group-based worksheets in math. If you can add relatedness, competence, and autonomy, that's fun. That's interesting, we find. The other thing we're trying to do is to have students internalize and build up a valuing or at least an acceptance of the worth of the learning activity. Whether it's respectful language, or following the rules, or improving your grades, whatever the teachers are requesting or the school's promoting, we try to encourage internalization. But we find that if activities are interesting and important, you solve most motivational problems in the school. So now, why the teachers think we're there is to solve these problems. And that's really why we spend a lot of time on the second one, internalization. So the teachers want us to, okay, stop what you're talking about and listen to me. My students are not trying, they're not putting forth effort, they're procrastinating. I have a disengagement problem, I have a performance problem, they're making poor scores, sloppy work, not revising their work, blah, 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 or I've got a behavior problem. And the big one is something related to antisocial behavior. So I've got this in the classroom, I've tried everything, and I need you to come in here and really give me some rock solid solutions. Okay. So another way of saying the same thing is really, although we work on a lot of things, we're trying to just do these three things. Learn to take the student's perspective. Present activities in interesting ways, interesting, need-satisfying ways, and present activities as useful, personally useful, and worthwhile, and important to the students. So get this right, and the rest of the lesson follows pretty well. So how we break this down to the specific recommended instructional behaviors. We work a lot on perspective taking, because that really drives everything. It's hard to be autonomy supportive if you've just got your own perspective in your head. You're not really taking the perspective of the students. And then spend a lot of time vitalizing psychological needs, and we work this how we recommend you do that. And supporting internalization is a complicated skill, parenting skill, physician skill. It takes all four of these behaviors together as a set, as a unit, in order to really promote internalization. So I'll show you a couple of examples of that. Okay, so here's our rating sheet. But basically, we're trying to do 3 things, not 6 things. Perspective taking, we'll work on that. We'll keep working on that. Lots of different ways to take perspective. At first, teachers say, I'll try this one. I'll try this one. Yeah, some kind of formative assessment or something like that. And then vitalize inner motivational resources and promote internalization. 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 big skills, but there's a lot of kind of sub-skills. And then we're not really trying to teach you individual instructional behaviors. We're trying to promote an overall style or tone. So if you can somehow take these 6 behaviors and put them together in a package, in a style, you're ready. You're ready. You don't need this anymore. Okay, I'll show you real briefly how we introduce this to teachers so you can get a feel for it. We give them sample scripts, we give them models, at first videotapes. Now we have, fortunately the teachers are willing to do this. Teachers in past interventions will come with us to the school, and the current teachers that we're working with find them more credible. Experienced Korean PE teachers or math teachers compared to us, especially me. You're not Korean, you don't understand. So we give them scripts, we give them models, we give them teachers that have worked through these interventions, endorse the method, and give them examples that they can deeply identify with. So I'll just show you 1 or 2 of these real fast, but we work really hard on perspective taking, so I'll show you one of those. And this is my favorite one. It's only 3 seconds long. These are really short, I think easy to learn behaviors. But you can get an idea of what we recommend, and then we spend a lot of time practicing. Just like 10 seconds long. So it's really hard to hear. The volume's too low.
Is there any way you're getting volume up?
There's a knob down here.
You should go turn it on.
There's a knob down here.
This is why
It's curly. Yeah, curly.
Is anything to the volume or related to that one?
This is why your microphone
Cut that out.
The volume is too low.
the volume is too
there.
loud. There's one.
It doesn't matter.
I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
So it's time to practice or practice. Before we do, I would like to know, does anyone have any advice or input to make this lesson more interesting?
Okay, there's 10 different ways you can take perspective. And one way is before we begin this learning activity, before we settle in on the schedule, before we, etc. Then I like to get your input. As the teachers will do, imagine teachers doing this every day, so the students come to expect. The teacher's going to ask for my input or my suggestions. So you get this back and forth relationship between the teachers. The teachers come with their lesson plans and an openness to allow that lesson plan to be modified by the students' suggestions and preferences and input. And if they'll do that, then it'll be much more easy for the students to experience need satisfaction. Because they're doing what they want, what they prefer, what they want to work on, what they value, things like that. But there are lots of different ways we do that. I can talk about that. And I'll show you my favorite one. 3 seconds.
So what would you like to do?
It's a real simple behavior, but you never hear this in the classroom. There's 2 things I never hear when I visit the classroom, and it doesn't matter what country I'm in, but we do this in a lot of different countries. What would you like to do? And explanatory rationales for their requests. These are really rare events, but they're not rare if you're autonomy-supportive. And just one more, and try to let's work hard to make the lesson interesting before I ask you for engagement.
Okay, so today we're going to learn about the solar system and outer space. Is there something that you find interesting about outer space?
The point is, I don't want to ask for engagement or participation or effort that's compliance-based. That's because I told you to. I want the engagement to be sparked by you, by your interests, by your preferences, by your pursuit of need satisfaction. I want you to initiate the engagement. So I want to ask you what you're interested in, where would you like to start. There's lots of different ways. So this is the promote autonomy, promote competence. There's lots of ways to do that. Promote relatedness. That actually is the easiest one to promote. Now I'll just show you on internalization, show you 1 or 2 of the videos. I'll try to get to the next slide.
So what about the lesson would you want to focus on today? Where would you like to start?
Lots of ways to say the same way. Okay, here's a really difficult thing. I think really the teachers who can get over the hump and become autonomy-supportive know how to make a lesson interesting, how to make it need satisfying. I think that's the critical thing: perspective taking and autonomy, competence, and relatedness sparking. But the teachers really say, let's talk about this. This is the stuff I want to work on, because I'm trying to solve these problems that I haven't been able to solve on my own. So I just run you through a couple of things. It takes 4 things. It takes informational, invitational language, patience, acknowledgement of negative affect, and explanatory rationales. But I'll just give you a quick test, put you in the place of the teachers. If you were talking to somebody, a friend, somebody from the University of Sydney, and you were inviting them maybe to come to today's talk, what's the rationale you would give them to create a sense of want in them to come today? So what would your rationale sound like? You don't have to tell me, but you're talking to a friend. Why would they want to come to a talk, a lunch bag at Brown Bag here?
Brilliant, exciting, fun.
Okay. Actually, and the question is, how would they receive it? So if you work through this, we all assume that we know how to do rationales, but it's really difficult if you work with your kids, with your colleagues. So it's a skill. We have spent a lot of time working on it. I'll give you a couple of, well, how about just one example of what we recommend. Here's the script.
Okay, so in this class, we will work on using respectful language, and that means we are not saying things that put others down or hurt their feelings. Why is using respectful language important? First, it keeps conflict out of class, and also it helps maintain friendships. Okay, don't you think that is important?
The reason I like the example is that teachers may get a request, but to transition it. This is about friendships. This is not about me imposing a rule on respectful language. So I'm trying to promote your friendships, and this is just a means to promote friendships and classroom harmony. Don't you want that? And so, yeah, I want that. So in order to get that, we're going to use respectful language. So students will, okay, I'll do it. That makes sense. This was, it's my daughter. Try to see but how about one on acknowledge and accept negative affect? This is very difficult for teachers to learn, but once they get it, it makes all the difference in the world. Here's a potential script, and the teacher will go through a model in the script.
Okay, so I'm seeing some frustrated faces, is that right? Okay, I understand. This material is new and unfamiliar, and it's a little harder than what we did last week. Okay, so I want to think about what would help you. Would you like an example, or perhaps you need more practice, or I could show a demonstration?
Okay, if you see enough of these, and we see a role model of this, is you can see that I understand why you're sleeping in class, why you're tired, why you didn't do your homework. Yes, that makes sense. I probably would have done the same thing. I've seen this other students do that. Makes sense. How could we solve the problem? How could we get the boredom, the frustration, the confusion out of the classroom so they can proceed with a profitable lesson? And this actually works beautifully to change students from resistance, I'm not going to do that, to acceptance. Because the student understands me, the teacher understands me, she's on my side, she's really trying to help me, not pressure me. I'll talk to her. So we spent a lot of time on this, but that's a sample of what we do. And we're on the slide. There we go. Yeah, try to get the next slide.
Let's just try this. What did you do?
So what we're trying to do when we are in the schools and conducting the workshops and answering the emails and texts now, we're trying to have them upgrade their motivating style, become more autonomous, or less controlling in every situation that they can imagine, whether it's sparking interest or solving a difficult problem, even really difficult problems like fighting and cheating and plagiarism and bullying. So here are our key findings. I'll go through this real fast, but just give you a sample of what it is. First, look at the students. So we all, in every study, we track need satisfaction is changing. This is an autonomy-supportive intervention, but we work with teachers to not only learn how to support autonomy, but competence and relatedness, need satisfaction in general. And the red line is basically the control group, where it doesn't change much over the course of the semester. Just kind of sad. These are really good instructors. They're excellent instructors, I think. But with an intervention that is working hard on their motivating style, come to class every week, trying to become more autonomous, more less controlling. You can see students are picking out, students don't know the teachers are in a study, they just fill out questionnaires, but they're responding to the changes in their teacher style with more need satisfaction. And I just put a second one up there to give you an idea. We do this in every study. We do the manipulation check, and we do the need satisfaction, need frustration measures, just to make sure that the interventions have the effect that we expect. And then assuming that motivated style, students and raters see the changes in the motivating style, students reporting the need satisfaction, need frustration changes, and we think some wonderful things happen. Here, this is just engagement and pay motivation in our early studies. So engagement spikes up. These are really actually large differences. The D's are greater than 1. And It's really difficult to get a motivation to decline. It's really typical to see it rise over the course of the semester. How it works in process, this is just a time 1, time 2, time 3, times 4, but what we think is happening is our interventions designed for the first 9-10 weeks of the semester, that we try to promote a change in need satisfaction, a change in diminish in need frustration. And then if these happen by the end of the first semester, you see need satisfaction promoting greater engagement, need frustration is diminishing amotivation or disengagement. And then it keeps going. If need satisfaction will rise and fall, then engagement will rise and fall in the future time. Saying if we can get need frustration to rise and fall, we can get amotivation to rise and fall. So those are kind of academic benefits. Here's social functioning. So over time, the blue line goes up nicely for pro-social behavior, blue line goes down for anti-social behavior. How it works again, what the intervention does, and then if we can promote need satisfaction, promote pro-social, we can diminish need frustration, we can diminish anti-social behavior. Here's that self-concept, that in there. So this actually we had 2 interventions. We had this autonomy-supportive intervention and shorthand, autonomy, support, and structure. It's actually goals, intrinsic goals. But I just talk about this one. So we have the typical ASIP, promote need satisfaction, diminish need frustration, and self-concept was responsive to greater need satisfaction. Whereas there are problematic relationships with both need frustration and need satisfaction. Other benefits that we've included in other studies is basically intrinsic motivation or identified regulation, skill development, better writers for teachers, better teaching, achievement, engagement, always that. This is one of my favorite ones because this is the most controlling people we've ever worked with. When I was in the States, you'll never guess who the most controlling humans on the planet are, but when I was in the States, I found out who they were. They were, I don't know if you know the athletic system in the U.S., but Division I basketball coaches. The major colleges, the basketball coaches at these universities, that try to get in the top 20 or 25 of the ranking, these are the most controlling people on the planet. But we found their superiors. When we went to Korea and we worked with not the Olympic team, but the Paralympic national team. They all get together in one compound for months at a time. Before, this was the London Olympics in about 5 years ago, whatever it was. 12 or 16, 12, thanks. They were going off to London, so they met for 3 months in this compound. They ate together, they worked together, athletes and the coaches. You just cannot imagine a more pressure-packed world. I was just sick every day. But the coaches are told, bring home a gold medal, or don't come home. And they're just, every 30 minutes, they're told something equivalent to that. The pressure's incredible, and they pass it right on to their athletes. But basically, so in a high stakes environment, the highest stakes we could find. So we worked with a randomly assigned, they let us randomly assign, we're very appreciative. So we had coaches who went through an ASIP and coaches who just continued to use their natural motivated style. And the bottom line of this is that 61% of our athletes who were in the ASIP coaches had become more autonomy supportive, or at least less controlling. 61% won Olympic medals, and in the control group only 21% won Olympic medals. So we got invited back, so we're going to be able to go to the Tokyo Olympics coming up. Another one I'll say real fast on classroom climate benefits. This one actually surprised me. I didn't expect it. This was Sung Hyung's idea. Okay, he just anyway. But actually, we got this from the achievement goal literature. Task involving versus ego involving peer relationships or classroom climate. So we're able to promote a more task involved and a less ego-involved climate, peer-to-peer relationships. So just how this works is, in the ASIPs, we found out a couple of things are going on. Here's our typical finding. Greater need satisfaction, 21, lesser need frustrations, negative 11. That's like a lot of our studies. But we also, another effect was going on that we weren't previously aware of. More task climate, less ego climate. And in this study we were involved, we were trying to understand and predict antisocial and pro-social behavior. And what was driving the greater pro-social behavior was actually the climate. So by being autonomy, supportive, and understanding, and things like this, and having less ego, more task climate, the pro-social behavior increased. So if you could change the climate, you could change the pro-social interactions. And if you could minimize the ego involvements, then you could minimize the antisocial behavior. So the point of that is we've got these double effects going on. Personal and climate, personal need satisfaction and climate. And then teacher benefits. The first benefit, we think, is simply skill. So we work, here's our autonomy-supportive instructional behaviors, and we think, here's the control group. This is according to this rating sheet. Raters come in, they don't know what group the teachers are in, and make these ratings. In the control group is real typical to get around an average of 4 on each one of these behaviors. Except in the United States, rationale is, it just never occurs. Literally go all day, you don't hear a single rationale. But here you get sometimes it occurs. And in the experimental group, they're all like 6s out of 7-point scale. So they're all pretty skilled. We don't leave many teachers behind. So the first thing is skill. And the greater skill, because these are effective ways of promoting intrinsic motivation and promoting internalization, that students become more engaged and more pro-social and come to class prepared and use respectful language, etc. So the teachers start to gain efficacy for promoting learning and efficacy for promoting engagement. So here's the blue line, a really nice increase in efficacy over the course of I think it's a semester. Here's our well-being measures, job satisfaction. The teachers will say, I think I chose the right profession, I like my job, I enjoy coming here, things like this. 6 on a 7-point scale, it's pretty good for a group. A nice blue line, and these are our measures that kind of emotional about energy, my vitality is high, my physical exhaustion is less. You're able to get the emotional exhaustion out of the classroom experience. Just some other benefits, harmonious passion, intrinsic goals. The blue line goes up, the red line stays flat. Basically, just about every measure. So we think this is what's going on. We work really hard with the teachers to develop their instructional skill, how to nurture these needs. And then as teachers gain these skills, and they personalize them, make them their own, take them to the classroom, implement them, this greater skill builds their efficacy. I go into class, I know I can spark engagement, and I can spark rule following or whatever it is, learning. And then with these positive experiences, students really are more engaged in my class when I satisfy their needs. Then they come to believe that autonomy support is effective. They generally don't believe this when we show up for the school. And it's easy to do. In fact, it's actually less time consuming, less conflict generated. It's actually easier to do than a controlling or a behavior management approach, because you have to keep repeating all those techniques. And simultaneously, another thing that's happening is they're shifting from extrinsic instructional goals to intrinsic. I'm not necessarily, there's nothing wrong with promoting high test scores, but I'm also trying to promote personal growth and relationship growth during classroom. So I'm more likely to come to classroom with intrinsic, need-satisfying instructional goals. And then you put these things together, efficacy, intrinsic goals, these constructive beliefs about, it works. It's easy to do. It's not time-consuming. It's not a hassle. And teachers become more autonomy-supportive. And just to show you, because I think it's really important to what professionally development kind of experience. So the teachers will develop these skills, these behaviors, and take on the tone. I don't have to measure tone. And that translates into these changes in efficacy and these changes in beliefs. And then they start to transform their motivating style, their beliefs about motivating style, efficacy, goals, things like this. And just one more, I think this is the last slide. So we have an intervention that we can promote teachers' need satisfaction during teaching, their efficacy, pretty good effect sizes, their intrinsic goal adoption, and the more they become efficacious in intrinsic goal, the more they say they change them. This is self-reported motivated style. Okay, that's it. Some people like to see more of the video, so I've got them on there if you want, but I think it might be better to chat.
Hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah.
You might have mentioned, you might probably missed it. What's the scale on the time? You say time 1, time 2, time 3. How
Yeah.
far apart are they?
It's, if we do it in the semester, it's week 1, week 10, week 18. So 2.5 months, 2 months.
So I'm trying to understand if any of, so they're all very close to when the intervention is given. Time 3 is just after the intervention?
Nope. The intervention takes place before the semester begins. We work with them 1 or 2 weeks before the semester. I should say the Korean teachers really are interested in professional growth and development. They're passionate about being effective, good teachers. So they'll come to a week early to these basically workshops and work on their style. Then, okay, I'm ready. I don't know, I'll try. Then they try it out for 2 months in the classroom. And it takes that while to develop the style, to try the behaviors, to personalize it, to adjust it. And then we have a group discussion where they come together. I've been doing this, this works. I've been doing that, it doesn't work. Oh, try this. So they have this group. They're all teaching the same curriculum, basically. So they share and revise their strategies, keep trying it out. And after 2 months, then we'll self-report measures, and the raters come in and score the motivated style. But if motivated style is going to change, it's going to happen in those 2 months.
So is time 1 on your slides 2 months after the intervention?
No, it's the first week of classes. So the relationship between the teacher and the students hasn't developed. Students come in with expectations, with past experiences, with efficacy, with goals, things like this. So they fill out the questionnaires in a naive kind of way. I don't know yet, but do you see individual differences? Because, like for example, grade level and gender, and I like sports, I don't like sports, or PE, something like this. So there's a lot of individual variation, but the 2 groups are not different. They're experimental control. And then they interact with their teachers for 2 months, and the magic happens. Then we wait another 2 months, and we do time 3. And then we wait another 4 months to do time 4. So we start in March, time 1. If it's a year study, the end of the first semester, it's time 2. End of the second semester is time 3.
So from time, sorry for being so obtuse, between time 2 and time 3, there's no interaction between the...
That's right. We're done.
So they're on their own. So time 3 is
They're on
really
their
like
own.
a follow-up, like there's their lasting effect. So I was really trying to understand how long do these effects last?
Yeah, we've looked into this. First one, we just did a 1-year follow-up. We went back to the teachers. It's kind of interesting that the teachers have all new students. In Korea, teachers have to switch schools every 5 years. So some of them even switched to a new school. So we wanted to see if they were still autonomy-supportive, or if somehow, once we left the school, that they reverted back to their more controlling style. Korean teachers are pretty controlling as a group. But what we found was they'd maintained their autonomy-supportive strategy according to the raters, according to the students, their new students. And in fact, it had even gone up. They've become more autonomy-supportive. And we didn't have any backsliding in the experimental group. Actually, if you go through the interventions, you know why. Students really are fundamentally more engaged, more excited to be there, more pro-social. So why would you go back to your old motivating style and all the problems if you have a way to solve them? So they keep with us. So we've only done 1 year follow-up. We need longer than that, but
That's still pretty good. Thanks.
Were there any teachers reported that were not in the workshop, but later on took over the autonomy support motivation stuff. Like they looked at people like, oh, this might work, I'm going to do the same. Any reports of that in the follow-up?
They wouldn't be in our study, but they could be in the control group where that happened. One reason we work so hard to get the random assignment is many of our studies, we just pick one teacher from one school. So there's not a lot of contamination or crosstalk. We have done a whole school where there is a crosstalk and things like that. That's harder to eliminate this kind of problem where, hey, this is working, then I want to share it during lunch with my colleague, things like that. So by doing one teacher, one school, we can minimize that.
So Jay, you've shown that this is fairly effective. And have you tried rolling it out at scale? Have you done any dissemination studies on this approach yet?
A group in Sweden really wants to put it online. And we've been working hard on that. We haven't done it yet. There's lots of reasons. But that would represent the massive scale. The biggest scale we've done, I just say no, we haven't done that scale.
And what's the cost of the per teacher?
We compensate them. We give them equivalent of $100 for the year or semester. There's just almost no cost involved. Time, that's the big thing.
This probably relates a lot to Phil's question, but have you guys ever tried rolling it out in university for people who are learning to be teachers? Because it seems to be very useful.
That's what Linia Matos in Peru has been doing for the last couple of years. Yeah, we've now conducted 18 of these interventions. 17 of them have worked, and one hasn't. The one that didn't work was with the university professors. We didn't know if it was in Lima, Peru, or if it was university professors, things like that. It may be university professors and instructors. But then she's just completed another one and it worked fine.
So the results look pretty positive overall. So it seems really beneficial.
They're always, these effect sizes are huge. I mean, when you go into the classroom, it's obvious. These are not subtle effects. This is a fundamentally different classroom. The students are different, the teachers are different. It's really fundamentally changed. I want to be in this class, whereas I didn't want to be in the class before. But we're suspicious about university instructors. I don't know. It's different. I don't know why yet.
They're not trained to be teachers most of the time. That's probably.
I think because we're working with the workshops, and the Korean teachers are so focused on professional development, top priority, that the reason we didn't see the effects in the first studies, the university professors just didn't take it seriously. Riding on the subway thinking about it, what I'm going to do differently in tomorrow's class that I didn't do today. I don't think the university instructors were doing that the way our high school and primary school teachers are doing. They're constantly thinking and doing these mental simulations and trying to improve and revising their strategy and trying something new the next week. I don't know if the university professors were doing their
Especially
work.
you're looking at research universities.
Yeah.
Where their priorities make a difference. The models that you're looking at are fairly complicated because they've got different levels. So you've got the classroom level, you've got the student level, and as long as most of the things you're focusing on were just single level models, but you obviously have multi-level models.
Yep.
And there's also a complication, an interesting complication in terms of the causal ordering of things.
Yep.
You've got a nice mediation model, so that, and there's a temporal sort of aspect to that. The other aspect that's interesting, would be interesting, is to show the temporal ordering of teachers and the students and so forth. So I'm sure there must be some sort of interesting reciprocal relationship that presumably the intervention has initial effects on the teachers, which goes to the students,
Absolutely.
and the students' positive effects will influence the teachers, and that may be why you're getting.
Go back to one of these models.
That may be why you're getting some of your sleeper effects.
As students become more pro-social, They have better interaction with their friends. They have more need satisfaction. So if you look at the modification indexes on a literal printout, this path should be in the model. So we've been putting them in there. These models get really complicated because basically it looks like everything's predicting everything. Because they do. They are related. If I can increase your need satisfaction, I can pro-social engagement. If you're more engaged, more pro-social, then you're more likely to have more need satisfaction,
but also,
independent of the teacher.
But also, there's a multi-level model
Yep.
underlying this, so that these are the student level effects are L1 and the teacher effects are L2. And yeah, so there's an interesting nesting sort of thing that makes it really messy.
Really messy.
You obviously haven't portrayed that here, but that's all interesting.
All the results I showed you were student level. And what we think about is we've controlled for the teacher differences. And actually, it's even more complicated because we'll often have teachers have two of their classes involved in the study. So we have a time level, then a student level, classroom level, and a teacher level. So another level above that. And so you'll get a effect of the class, because the peers and things like this, effect of the teacher, and effect of the student over time. So all you see here is student level data. Because when we started off, we were just working like with 20 teachers at a time, 10 in both groups. So the teacher effect is N at 20, and the student affects 1,000.
You control for the teacher effect, but L1.
Yeah. How we think about it is like partial it out and throw it away as uninteresting, which is not true, but in the data that I present.
What about student measures? Have you actually measured what students' perceptions are of this intervention as well?
No. We've done a lot of fidelity checks with the teacher, but we never stopped and asked the students don't even know the teachers in the interventions. So we never paused and asked the students.
Do you measure any variables with students, any psychological variables with students to measure actual change over time on self-importance?
Yeah, almost all of our measures come from, not all of them, we have objective measures like teacher ratings of antisocial behavior, academic progress, things like that. But like all these are just student self-report measures, tracked over time, all of them. Almost all that I showed you was the students fill out this questionnaire. This is a 12-item measure, time 1. They fill it out again. Months later, they fill it out again. They fill it out again. And the questionnaire is just different every student.
It'd be really interesting to know their perceptions of the actual intervention, whether what they're picking up that's different.
Yeah, we never have.
Get an ARC grant, don't do that.
So sorry, Johnmarshall, when you said there were some cases where you had two classes nested under the same teacher, did you look at how much variance there is?
Yeah, 5%. About 5%.
And did you ever look at what those predictors would be? It would be interesting to kind of get an idea of what the contextual kind of moderators of the intervention effectiveness are.
No. I assume it's peer-to-peer relations. And in Korea, some classes are just male. Most of them are both. But, we do a lot of schools. Some of them are male schools and female schools. So you've got some peer-to-peer differences. Mostly, I think that's what it is. But the teachers will say, this class is just different from that class. So there's something else besides that. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But it's there.
Yeah, we did a classroom climate study, and we had multiple teachers that had the same group of students. So the group of students was constant, and they had lots of different teachers. And we were able to show that the classroom climate was more a function of the students who were sitting in the classroom and the teacher who was at the front of the classroom.
Yeah.
What did you do with the observation ratings? Are they integrated into the analysis?
This, the hypothesis test, yes, but the model, no. Because it's just one or sometimes 2 times. It's not repeated measures. We just use it as a manipulation check. But what we're doing now is teacher ratings. The big bullying study that we finished. We have nice teacher-rated bullying, teacher-rated bullying, teacher-rated bullying, teacher-rated bullying.
When you say teacher-rated bullying, is the teacher doing the bullying or the student?
No,
Hopefully not.
we give the teacher a class list
Yeah.
and 2 questions about verbal and physical abuse or bullying, and they fill out the questionnaire for each. For each student, they make these 2 ratings.
It's from the student to student, not
Or
the
student
student
to teacher.
Between
Students.
student treating other students, who's the bully in the class towards other students.
We have student bullying teachers.
Yeah.
Wow. You don't have any of that in Korea. The students are unbelievably respectful.
As well.
Students, teachers bullying students.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Yeah. We call that a controlling, motivated style. No, there's no in-class disrespect to the teacher. This just doesn't happen. This doesn't happen.
Great, well, thank you very much.